welcome to the Week 2 edition of the Box Score here on DTC Sports. Plenty of football to talk about. I'm your host, Tom Duggin, joined by the coach, Chris Vance. Coach, this time last week, we are pontificating Week 1 of the high school football season. Still talking all about COVID and stuff like that. Well, we've gone, as in 2020 style, from talking about COVID last week to talking hurricanes this week, as it looks like the remnants of Hurricane Laura might possibly have some effect actually has already had effect on several games. A lot of games, in fact, have moved already to Thursday night. Oh, it's 2020. Let's bring out the flying monkeys. Let's just get it something new every week. I think it's going to be something. In fact, as you well know, if you follow the weather, 2 hurricanes hitting the Gulf Coast, and our thoughts and prayers certainly going to all the folks down in that region. But seriously, Coach, a lot of games are moving because of the lack of rain in the forecast Thursday. However, our game, football game night, Smith County, Gordonsville, they are sticking to, as of our filming on Wednesday, the plan to play the game on Friday night. We could have some really gusty winds. The timing is going to depend on when the heavy rain gets here. It might be a big old mess to see this big rivalry game on Friday. It's a rivalry game anyway, so you know it's going to be a mess. You're going to have 2 teams that really want to get after each other. But there always seems to be something in the elements, the atmosphere. It's early. Sometimes we're battling the heat. Sometimes it's the weather. This time it just happens to be major weather. On the show today, we're going to, of course, recap Week 1 and talk about some of the struggles that some of the area teams had as we kind of expected. It wasn't really a pretty start to the 2020 high school football season for a lot of teams. Of course, this has not been the typical offseason, so that would explain a lot of the reason why. But we'll go back and recap. And, of course, we'll talk about the games coming up, most of them scheduled for Thursday night. We'll also talk to Terry Collins of 104.1 The Ranch and DTC Sports. He'll break down the Smith County Owls a little bit for us. And in addition to that, we'll talk a little bit more in depth about the great Smith County-Gordonsville rivalry. But first, we're going to go back to last week and take a look at some highlights from our game of the week, Watertown and Gordonsville. Not a pretty sight. In fact, turnovers, penalties kind of ruled the night. First turnover of the night here on a fumble recovered by Lucas Roberts for Gordonsville. But then it's Albritton. Not 1, not 2. The young sophomore quarterback would go for the hat trick. 3 interceptions thrown on the night. Tough night for the young quarterback. Let's look at the scoring plays. Not many of those to look at. Here's Jordan Carter early in the first quarter. Plows in from 4 yards out. Missed extra point at 6-0. Tyler Gregory then on the quarterback keep. Actually in a Wildcat set. Goes in from 4 yards out. 7-6. It stayed that way to the fourth quarter. Jordan Kaysen got in a rhythm. Look at this. 4 yards almost untouched into the end zone. That would be the ball game. Watertown holds on to win it by a final of 14-7. Jordan Carter, a banner night, 83 yards rushing, a touchdown, had a fumble recovery, an interception, and had 12 tackles, and one of those for loss. Big night for Carter. Jordan Kaysen with the touchdown, as we mentioned. He also had 9 tackles, 2 for loss. Quantarius Hughes-Malone, 6 catches for 79 yards. As we mentioned, a tough night for Albritton, 12-27, a buck 10, 3 picks, -2 yards in rushing. Darryl Holt with 19 rushes, 57 yards. Gregory, as we mentioned, on the touchdown. And also a big night for Will Dudney, the linebacker. 13 total tackles, 4 for loss, 1 for a sack. Coach, it was a defensive struggle, a defensive battle. We kind of expected that. But some sloppy football on the way, too. Hanging on to the football being an issue. Some miscommunications. We saw some bad snaps. Center quarterback exchanges were tough. Some bad snaps also on punts. And kind of a little bit, I hate to say it, what we expected, all things considered, in Week 1 with what's happened in the offseason. We can probably run through the same scenario for each of the games that we're going to talk about. But I think the biggest heavy hitter on this whole thing was the fact that none of the teams were able to play in a scrimmage game. Right. There was no jamboree, and that's where you, even if it's for a quarter, you're able to work against someone else. You get that game speed in. You seem to work out some kinks. The jitters seem to kind of go away. I think the anxiety over finally being able to play football with so much uncertainty beforehand caused some of it. And again, to stem from that same idea, we're going to see so much improvement from Week 1 to Week 2, which is generally the case because now we're going from jamboree to what should be Week 1 game. All right, Watertown gets their 6th win in a row over Gordonsville. They will host Nolensville on Thursday night. Of course, Gordonsville taking on Smith County Friday. our football game night game of the week. Well, let's look at some box scores, some other area games. Gordonsville's opponent, Smith County. Rough night for the Owls last Friday night. Macon County led 36-0 at the half. They cruised 43-7. Smith County had only 14 total yards through the third quarter of this ball game. They would fumble the ball 8 times. They lost 2 of those, also an interception thrown. Andrew Wheely started the game at quarterback, then Johnny Lyda came in later. Logan Jenkins, the big night for Macon County, 8 carries, 77 yards. He also had a 61-yard punt return for a touchdown. We'll talk to Terry Collins more about this game later in the program. Moving on the scoreboard, Cannon County, we didn't have a lot of statistics available to us for their game at Walker Valley. They trailed 26-0 at the half. Now, of course, this game was scheduled after White County was forced to cancel their game with Cannon County due to a positive COVID test for the White County Warriors. For Walker Valley, Tucker Pope goes 7 of 11, 59 yards, a pair of touchdowns for him, 1 running and 1 passing. Heath Tanksley on the ground, 6 carries, 84 yards, a touchdown. Mark Rogers would add a couple of scores for Walker Valley. DeKalb County, they had a shootout with Warren County, but they just played catch-up all night, just could not get over the hump. C.J. Taylor, the outstanding quarterback, ran, I think Steve Trapp said, hauled wild against his DeKalb County defense. 255 rushing yards and a trifecta of scores. That's just on the ground. He added 96 passing yards and a touchdown as Warren County wins it 30-24. Great night for Axel Aldino despite the loss. 18 of 24, 253 yards. He tossed 4 touchdowns, 2 of those to Trevante Alexander, 43 and 10 yards. Isaac Knowles and Desmond Noakes, respectively, with a touchdown. Coach, as we go back and kind of look, we'll kind of bypass Macon County, Smith County for a moment. We'll get Terry's insight on that a little bit. I want to go to DeKalb County, Warren County first. And I think a good test right out of the gate for DeKalb County. You got a 6A school, and really a lot of hype about Warren County. This may be one of the better Pioneer teams they've had. You know, you're going back probably 30 years or so looking at this program that's really struggled. C.J. Taylor, he's an all-out playmaker. You know, for DeKalb County to hang in, of course, you know, Tiger fans wanted to see a win, but I think a pretty good showing against what I think is a really good Warren County team. You're looking at a new coaching staff over at Warren County, and so that put DeKalb behind the 8 ball just a little bit as far as prep, film work, no jamborees, no scrimmages, right. Nothing to kind of go by. But I had the chance to talk with Coach Trapp, and he said that the C.J. Taylor kid was legit, offensively and defensively. I think of the 3 turnovers that DeKalb had, he was in on 2 of them, caused a fumble and had an interception. Offensively, you talked about all the damage that he did there. Coach Trapp accredits a lot of this to not being able to scrimmage somebody. Yeah. You know, you're week 1 without another opponent, game speed being key, just unforced error breakdowns offensively, defensively, missed tackles. You know, you get your eyes, you know, you get your fits with your blitzes and your stunts and your blocking schemes up front with all of that. And just a lot of first game jitters and complications. He felt like they moved the ball very well against Warren County. 2 of their turnovers happening on the plus side of the field. You get down there a 3rd time in the gold zone or whatever they're calling it, and you let a couple of penalties back you up and kind of stop that drive. But they fell behind the 8 ball early. They tried playing catch up with the extra point that got missed, and they just could not come back. But if they had, you know, ifs and buts, all that good stuff. But it's things that you as a coach feel like you can correct before week 2. DeKalb County, the kicking game also a concern as Coach Trapp still trying to iron that out. 4 score touchdowns. They had no extra point conversions. Of course, that's only 4 points. That didn't make the difference, but still something that Coach Trapp is addressing moving forward. Cannon County, we talked about this on our telecast last week. They could have taken a 1-0 start, Coach, as White County was forced to cancel the game with Cannon County due to a player testing positive for COVID. Cannon didn't want to do that. They go on the road, they play Walker Valley, pretty good team, also a 5A team, and they take some lumps there, but I think Coach Daniel wanted to get his team on the field, and if nothing else, use it as a glorified scrimmage and get ready for region play. I think this is going to be one of those years where if you are a Cannon County, Ducks may line up. Yeah. Go ahead and play this game and get your young, I know they've got 10 seniors, but inexperienced team some reps. Yeah. Treat this like a scrimmage. Treat these non-regions games like a scrimmage. And then when you look at what this region did in week 1,
nobody came away with the win.
Exactly.
So it kind of puts a lot of question marks against some teams that perhaps you think going in, well, typically we're not going to fare too well. But after week one's results, you're thinking, well, maybe these are some games we can win.
Absolutely. And we'll talk more about that, the struggles of Region 4 3A, and again, some of the other teams around the area getting off to a tough start as we move forward in tonight's program. All right, stay tuned. We'll have a look around the scoreboard when we come back. Terry Collins will join us. Then a look at week 2 all coming up as you watch the box score here on DTC Sports.
Throughout your life, there will be times when you need well-rounded and experienced legal representation. Consider the expertise of Beller Law. They can help you with the benefit of their broad legal experience. Everything from estate planning to probate, from wills and trusts to general litigation. From business law to collections, Beller Law can provide you highly qualified legal advice and assistance. Call the team of Beller Law, attorneys at law, today.
Unrivaled service and practical advice from Jeff James and Grant James at DeKalb County Insurance. With auto, homeowners, life and retirement, property and liability, and business policies available, receive seriously good insurance with great coverage and prices. DeKalb County Insurance is an independent agency that shops multiple carriers such as Erie, Allstate, Travelers, State Auto, Progressive, and many more. Call today for a quote. DeKalb County Insurance, 615-597-0660.
Life can be so busy these days, but all of my services from DTC really help make everything easier and more enjoyable.
For a limited time, earn a $25 bill credit for yourself and $25 for your favorite local school when you add or upgrade internet service with DTC.
I get great value with DTC.
Call or stop by today to learn more. DTC Communications, your total communications provider.
Back on this week's edition of the Box Score and set to talk about some scores from around the local area. We'll delve into Region 4-1A, 4-2A, 4-3A, and of course Region 3-4A, all containing teams from around this area. And I'm going to tell you, Coach, a lot of it ain't pretty. You would have been happy last week when you look at the scoreboard. A whole lot of defense. I don't know if it's so much just defense or just sloppy play combined with good defense.
Yeah, we can go back to the game Friday night. Yeah, you credit the defense, especially the secondaries for both schools. But offensively, passing-wise, you had drops and you had some just flat-out save. Had some bad throws.
Right.
Running game, I thought both teams established some running game that was pretty good. I thought the offensive lines did a better job than I expected them to do.
They did.
And like I said, we can talk about these same things with all of the games that we're going to talk about. The same issues applied to all of them.
All right, let's dig into the scoreboard. We'll start things out in Region 4-1A and look at the scores from last week. It was kind of a mixed bag for 4-1A. Joe Burns gets the win over Harpeth. Clay County, a nice win over Columbia Academy. Now remember, that was a game also that was rescheduled, or had to be scheduled late, I should say, due to Clay County having an opponent that canceled due to COVID. We've talked about Watertown, Gordonsville. Monterey, they had to miss last week. They'll miss this week due to having players tested positive for COVID. And bad news for Pickett County and Red Boiling Springs, both on the wrong end of lopsided scores, 41-16 and 41-6. I guess, Coach, one thing that kind of stands out to me, Clay County there, when you get an opponent kind of, I hate to say last minute, but just within a few days, kind of hard to prepare for that, let alone not having the scrimmages, as you mentioned. Not having any game film, I think that's a good win for them in week one.
It is, and I went back and did some little homework on Columbia Academy, and I think they're predicted to win their region.
Yeah.
They were surprise finished and won it last year after being third the year before that, and they've got a lot of players coming back. So I think that's a really good win. And that's one of the things that I tried doing with each different region. We list Clay County, and then we list, Gordonsville, and it's like Gordonsville may have a little bit of work to do to try to catch up to that learning curve.
Absolutely. You got a lot of players back for that Clay County team this year. And again, Clay County and Gordonsville were predicted in a tie for first place in the Murphy Fair publication. We'll see how that all plays out. All right, on to Region 4 2A we go. Now, this is what stuck out to me. The most points scored in any one game at 4-2A, 22. That was in that Livingston-Westmoreland game, which for a long time was 4-0. But it ends up 12-10. Again, Watertown-Gordonsville. Friendship, a good win over Trouser County. Jackson County beats up on a depleted York Institute team. Forest over East Robertson. Moore County over Cascade. Coach, 3 shutouts. 2 of those games end with 7 points for the respective teams. And again, no more than 22 points scored in any one of those games. Again, just a lot of what we expected for week 1.
Jeff Fisher football. We're going to play conservative to the vest on offense, and we're going to get after you defensively and let special teams win it in the last 2 minutes of the ball game. I like those scores, but again, credit all this to the fact that teams haven't had the opportunity to play at full speed or against someone else's full speed, because that's quite a bit different from your second unit.
Let's talk about Trouser County a little bit. They dropped this one on the creek bank last week, and this is a team with serious hopes and aspirations of winning a state championship. They got a lot of personnel back from their team a year ago. Is this the kind of loss that hurts them in any way, knowing it's out of region, but knowing they kind of use this game, they and Friendship both, as kind of a measuring stick? Does that tell us really anything about Trousdale right now?
It's turning into a real good football game that a lot of people in the mid-state area, and the state in particular, want to look at and engage. 2 really good programs with deep tradition and history. Yes, Trousdale wants the win. They want the win at home.
Right.
But again, it's their jamboree.
Yeah.
It's going to give them the opportunity to kind of fix things that need fixing. It's going to show up, highlight it, and get ready to roll on.
All right, and if you think things were bad in 4-2A, wait till you get to 4-3A. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. Coach, what sticks out to me, the teams in Region 4-3A combined to score 7 points. They're outscored 164-7 in their Week 1 games. Grundy had the night off, so they didn't have to take part in that. Cookeville lopsided over Upperman. We talked about Walker Valley Cannon. Smith County, the only team in 4-3A to get on the scoreboard last week. Jackson over York. South Pittsburgh beats up on Sequatchie County. Not the best week if you're a Region 4-3A head coach.
No, you might want to revisit your scheduling. 2 things a thing I take away from that is Cookeville's really good.
Yes.
South Pitt is really good.
They're excellent, yes.
You look at a Macon County, and we're not real sure. But, you can kind of go up and down this roster. The thing that gets me are the lopsided scores. Mm-hmm. You talk about the 7 points, 1 touchdown scored by the region. And giving up so many, just the lopsided scores, not being able to keep the thing close. It looks like your defense is behind other teams' offense, and your offense is way behind other teams' defense. A lot of work to be done.
And that 1 touchdown came late in the 4th quarter over in Carthage as Smith County trailed Macon County that entire ball game. In fact, the Owls had only 14 total yards, as we mentioned, through the 3 quarters over there. So a tough week for Region 4-3A. They will definitely look to bounce back this week. All right, on to 3-4A. How did things go for the teams there? Well, again, you get a little bit of a mixed bag here. Scott takes out Cumberland County. Warren, as we mentioned, over to Cap County. Then there's Livingston with that win over Westmoreland. Macon, as we mentioned, over Smith. Grace Christian Knoxville over Stone Memorial, 34-14. I guess I'm a little encouraged by the Cumberland County score. Scott's usually a pretty decent football program. New head coach at Cumberland County. Coach, they've really struggled the last few years. And this is a Jets program, not wildly successful in football, but they've been competitive in years past. And they're just trying to find a groove and trying to get that program back up to speed. I thought a pretty good showing, again, against what is usually a pretty decent Scott High School program.
Those are the same notes that I have, Tom. You really don't know what to expect with Cumberland County. They've been doormats for several years like you talk about, and just it's that team that you can go into the season and check it off. We just show up and we win.
Right.
And that score indicates that maybe that's not going to be the case this year. The other thing that I noticed about this was that Westmoreland may be a lot better than what some teams get credit to, or Livingston has really kind of fallen off. And I was impressed with Stone Memorial.
You mentioned that, and that was the next point I was going to make. Because when you're looking at 3-4A, you're going to start looking at Livingston. Even though DeKalb County's picked to win the region, Livingston's had a stranglehold on this for quite some time. You got to throw a couple of years for Stone in there, obviously, and they're kind of building back up. But, is Livingston, are they going to struggle? Is Westmoreland up that good? We've known Westmoreland in years past to have a pretty good football program themselves. This could be a good year for them, and that might mean some trouble for the teams in 4-2A.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to, that some notes that I had made earlier about the 4-2A. And then you look at Stone Memorial, because they go to Knoxville Grace and play well against a team that's really, really good there, too.
Absolutely. And just the 3-4A, I think, is going to be an interesting race to watch, especially with Macon County's big win last week, as a lot of folks felt like Macon might be a team that's a year or so away from being competitive again, but to come out and put that kind of whipping on Smith County, and I know Smith County's young and they got some work to do, but I still thought that was a really impressive win for the Macon County Tigers. Well, speaking of Macon County, Smith County, we will talk more in depth about that game, and we'll also dig into the Smith County-Gordonsville rivalry with Terry Collins of 104.1 The Ranch, and of course, one of our correspondents here on DTC Sports. We'll talk to Terry when we come back to the box score here on DTC Sports.
Unrivaled service and practical advice from Jeff James and Grant James at DeKalb County Insurance. With auto, homeowners, life and retirement, property and liability, and business policies available, receive seriously good insurance with great coverage and prices. DeKalb County Insurance is an independent agency that shops multiple carriers such as Erie, Allstate, Travelers, State Auto, Progressive, and many more. Call today for a quote. DeKalb County Insurance, 615-597-0660.
At Hufflepuff Trucking, we strive to be different, especially in how we treat our drivers. We understand that drivers want honesty and respect. They want top pay and want to be able to get home to spend time with their family. If you would like to learn more about the difference Hufflepuff Trucking can make for you and your family, call us at 800-965-5033 or visit our website at huffpufftrucking.com.
What is your emergency?
I think I'm being robbed.
Sir?
These big home security guys want way too much money from me.
Let's connect you to a local company right away.
It's a crime what big national companies charge for home security.
For just $99.99, get a system with a touch keypad, 3 window or door sensors, motion detector, key fob, and 3 months of monitoring.
Help is on the way, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Switch now and save. Call or visit DTC Security online today.
Throughout your life, there will be times when you need well-rounded and experienced legal representation. Consider the expertise of Beller Law. They can help you with the benefit of their broad legal experience. Everything from estate planning to probate, from wills and trusts to general litigation. From business law to collections, Beller Law can provide you highly qualified legal advice and assistance. Call the team of Beller Law, attorneys at law, today.
We are set to talk a little more in depth about the Smith County-Gordonsville rivalry coming up on this segment. We've got Terry Collins from 104.1 The Ranch. He'll be covering the game on the Smith County side of things coming up Friday night. Terry, good to have you with us, and also a member of our DTC Sports crew. Good to have you here, and nobody knows more about Smith County sports than Terry Collins, that's for sure. Terry, I guess the first thing I want to talk about coming up on Friday night, as of right now, of course, we're filming Wednesday. We'll let the cat out of the bag. And as people who are watching on Thursday night, the game is still scheduled for Friday, although there's a pretty good chance of rain coming in Friday night. I guess the first thing I want to get your thoughts on, having seen Smith County, how does that affect the Owls in your mind if we do get a pretty good dose of rain coming in game time on Friday night?
Of course, we had a pretty good rain, Tom, in Carthage last Friday night before the Macon County game. Somewhere around, I guess, 5:45, hour and 15 for the game. don't know that affected it much, but Smith County's offense had 8 fumbles, and I'm not talking about bobbles. I'm talking about balls that hit the ground.
Right.
Either with a fumble or a snap that rolled back or whatever. When you look at that and you add the element of moisture, I'm afraid that could be trouble for the Owls. Now, whether it rains or not remains to be seen, but still, you really have to be careful. And I think it's awful critical that your managers keep a dry ball in there as well.
Right. And, of course, this being on Wednesday, and you never know about the tracks of these hurricane systems when they come in. You move a little bit north. It may not rain at all. You move a little bit south, and we may have more rain than we care to see on Friday night. But, Terry, let's get back to talking about Smith County. This was a team with only 2 starters back on each side of the ball, 17 seniors gone from the team a year ago. And I think we saw some of that youth and inexperience kind of show up last week against a Macon County team that brought back a lot from a year ago. In fact, I think you told me only 14 yards through the first 3 quarters. Kind of give us a synopsis of what you saw week 1 between Macon County and the Smith County Owls.
Mistakes, mistakes, mistakes. That's the only way to put it. Whether it be with the blocking up front where people were just coming completely free. They started with Andrew Wheely at quarterback. Due to the Lyda injury, they brought Lyda in on the 3rd series, but things didn't change. The Owls did not get their first down to a pass completion to DJ Burke, and that would have been about 15 seconds to go in the first half.
Wow.
And then, of course, the clock ran continuously because they were behind 36-0 at halftime. Macon fumbled at the Smith County 2-yard line, or it could have been worse. They did return a punt at the end of the first half. It was breakdown on special teams. I don't know that there was a positive to come out of that game where you thought, well, this right here has gotten better or whatever. I realize they had a lot of inexperience, but still, the players didn't react as Coach Murray, I'm sure, had hoped.
Terry, how do you feel like maybe the COVID affected Smith County in the offseason, being as you lose spring practice, you lose some things in the summer that you normally do, especially for such a young football team? What do you maybe scale the impact that COVID has had on this team?
Well, I think it has a lot. You take last year's team with those 17 seniors, I don't think it affects them as much because a lot of those were returning starters, Tom, and you had a more veteran experience club, kids that have started 2 and 3 years.
Right.
Well, when you look at this and, you've got a couple of kids on each side of the football that return, the problem with that is you've got 9 inexperienced players trying to work as one cohesive group, and it just did not happen. The defense didn't play that poorly, but when you only have 1 first down through 3 quarters, then you put your defense in a lot of bad situations. The offense had 3 turnovers in the first half. When you add all that up, if the offense can hold the ball for a little while, let the defense maybe rest a little, or at least get some positive things going, you never felt like that Smith County was a threat to score in those first 3 quarters. I mean, when I say the game, I think I counted up 51 snaps offensively in the first half. 49 of those, and that combined with both teams, were in Smith County territory.
Wow. And that's tough to win a football game when you're playing on your side of the field the entire night.
The whole time.
Yeah.
Even after the initial safety to start the game, we shanked the punt out of bounds at about the 35-yard line to give them excellent field position. It's a free kick. They chose to punt. Of course, you got a new punter, you got a new kicker, you got a new holder. The whole 9 yards, everything is new. And they had no scrimmages to actually. Of course, he tried the Friday night before to rep all that with a inter-squad scrimmage. But Tom, like I do, that's hard to do,
right,
and simulate somebody coming at you full speed.
Right, absolutely. And of course, folks at home, you may have seen the Gordonsville-Watertown game last week, and some growing pains for a young Gordonsville team. 3 interceptions thrown by the quarterback Matthew Albritton, got loads of talent, but again, with very little off-season work and preparation, and a lot of youth on that football team, they struggled somewhat last week again against the Watertown Purple Tigers, as we talked about a bit earlier in the show. we want to delve into this rivalry just a little bit, and want to take a look at a graphic that kind of sums up this rivalry just a little bit. It goes all the way back to 1930. That's when it began. This year will mark the 87th time these two teams have met. Smith County, a lopsided lead in the series, 65-19-2. They've won 19 to the last 21. Teams did not meet in 58 and 59, and I couldn't find scores for 41-45. I'll get to Terry on that in just a moment. The last time Gordonsville won 2 in a row in Carthage, you got to go back to 1984 and 1986, where if the Tigers are able to beat Smith County and Carthage this year, that would be the first time in 34 years that that's happened. Smith County was unbeaten in 27 meetings from 1947 to 75. There was one tie in there. Gordonsville's longest streaks, 4 in a row, 79-82, as they won 4 straight and won 7 of 8 from 1979 to 1986. And there's been a total of 39 total shutouts in the history of this series. Terry, let's go back to 58-59. I want to find out what you know about why the two teams didn't play that year, those years if you know. And then 41-45, I know that's the World War II era. Were games played at that time?
Yes, they were, and I did have some scores, partial scores from those years. But, Tom, when you look, there's really not been a very good job, at least on the Smith County side of it, of history. I did find an old ledger that had a lot of Gordonsville scores in it when we did the series in the newspaper probably 20, 25 years ago, and discussed each game. And when you look at that, it's hard to chase that back. Really, all you have is the local newspaper.
Right.
Because at that time, like a Cookville or Lebanon paper, unless they were playing them, didn't discuss it. So it's kind of tough. You can compare scores. I know Mr. Fountain down at Watertown has, a lot of Watertown's information. So you can get a score occasionally when you call the opponent, but that's very difficult to do.
Terry, what makes this rivalry so special? It's inter-county. A lot of folks, in fact, you've got folks that went to Smith County, live in Gordonsville, or vice versa. The Gordonsville folks, they don't say Smith County, they say Carthage. They're talking about Gordonsville, Carthage. But what stands out to you about this rivalry that really does make it special?
Well, I think, when you look at Coach Ford being at Carthage and then going to Gordonsville, I think that spectacle adds to the rivalry. You have so many people that work together. You have so many kids that play Little League and soccer and other sports together, junior pro basketball. When you look at that, they're intertwined.
Right.
They go to church with them.
Yep.
You see them at Walmart. You see them at the dollar store. You see them everywhere. When you turn, you even see them when you go to Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner across the table.
Right.
Because you've got somebody that married one side or the other. It's always funny to me that, if it's a Smith County boy against a Gordonsville girl, it's not always living on the Carthage side.
Right.
Sometimes they live on the Gordonsville side, and vice versa if it's a Gordonsville boy and a Smith County girl. It's a lot of just so interwoven when you look at that. And I think that's what makes it so special, because it's not just number 76 I'm blocking. That's my buddy that I go to church with.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to live with him 365 days. If they beat me, he's going to remind me that they beat me every time he sees me.
Should be a lot of those license plates. You see the house divided with one team on one side, one on the other. I think that'd be a very popular item with folks in this Gordonsville-Smith County rivalry. Terry Collins joining us today. You can hear his call of the game coming up on Friday night. 104.1 The Ranch FM. You can hear complete coverage of the game. Terry, thanks for stopping by to fill us in on Smith County and talk a little bit about the rivalry, and stay dry Friday night.
Yeah, hopefully we will, Tom. I'll tell you one little nugget right here. A lot of people didn't know it, but my dad played at Carthage his freshman year, and then Tony Ford was his coach. He wanted to play basketball at Carthage, and Coach Ford said, "No, you're too important for me to have in football."
Yeah.
So Dad quit and went to Gordonsville and played his sophomore, junior, and senior year. So that's another one of those interwoven tales that we spoke about just earlier.
That would make a great book. You got to write that one of these days, because it would be something I would definitely pick that up and read it for sure. Terry Collins joining us on this segment of the Box Score. Coach will be back, and we'll talk about the Week 2 games when we come back to the Box Score here on DTC Sports.
Are you a Class A CDL driver? Would you like to be home weekly? you want outstanding pay? Then Huff and Puff is for you. We offer an industry-leading pay package with a dispatch structure that maximizes your home time. To learn more about a company that knows you by name and treats you like family, call 615-765-5033. Huff and Puff Trucking. We hire good people.
Life can be so busy these days, but all of my services from DTC really help make everything easier and more enjoyable.
For a limited time, earn a $25 bill credit for yourself and $25 for your favorite local school when you add or upgrade internet service with DTC.
I get great value with DTC.
Call or stop by today to learn more. DTC Communications, your total communications provider.
Throughout your life, there will be times when you need well-rounded and experienced legal representation. Consider the expertise of Beller Law. They can help you with the benefit of their broad legal experience. Everything from estate planning to probate, from wills and trusts to general litigation. From business law to collections, Beller Law can provide you highly qualified legal advice and assistance. Call the team of Beller Law, attorneys at law, today.
Unrivaled service and practical advice from Jeff James and Grant James at DeKalb County Insurance. With auto, homeowners, life and retirement, property and liability, and business policies available, receive seriously good insurance with great coverage and prices. DeKalb County Insurance is an independent agency that shops multiple carriers such as Erie, Allstate, Travelers, State Auto, Progressive, and many more. Call today for a quote. DeKalb County Insurance, 615-597-0660.
Back for the final segment here on the Box Score. I want to thank our sponsors for our program, DeKalb County Insurance, Beller Law, and Huff and Puff Trucking. Appreciate all those sponsors keeping us on the air each and every week. And of course, if you're watching on television on a Thursday night or Friday night, you can also let folks know you can watch us online on Friday nights now, as we will lead into our football game night coverage with the Box Score at 6 o'clock. Each Friday night, you can watch that online, DTC3.tv. We'll have that streaming prior to the football game. All right, speaking of football games, well, Coach, if you're watching this on Friday, this segment, you might as well turn it off. Well, I won't say that, but a lot of these games are going to be played by the time they watch this on Friday night.
But they're watching the replay because they already watched it first Thursday night, so everything's good.
You got to watch it twice to catch all those dumb things I say somewhere along the way.
Well, yeah, it comes out of both.
But a lot of games we're going to talk about. We'll go through all the list of games, then we'll come back and pick out some of the matchups to talk about individually. Let's go to Region 4-1A to start things out, and as you'll see, well, a couple of games have already moved to Thursday night. Clay County Stone, Huntland Joe Burns, Lookout Valley and Monterey. That game canceled altogether. We've not heard from Pickett County Sunbright, so as far as we know, that game is still Friday night as we film our show on Wednesday. Gordonsville at Smith County, as we told you earlier, that game's still planned for Friday night. Then Saturday, Red Walling Springs takes on the Middle Tennessee Heat. That game will actually be played at Mount Juliet Christian Academy. Region 4-2A, all games have been moved to Thursday night. Trouser County at White House, Nolensville at Watertown, White House Heritage at East Robertson, Sale Creek at Jackson County. Westmoreland will travel to Macon County while Cascade has the week off. Now to Region 4 at 3A, and again, you're going to see 4 games that have been moved to Thursday. Grundy, South Pittsburgh, Sequatchie County, Marion County, Cannon at Warren County, Upperman at DeKalb. All will be Thursday night. There's Gordonsville Smith again, and no word out of Jamestown. And again, we are to assume at this point that Oneida and York Institute will be played on Friday night. Then the Region 3-4A, some of these matchups we've already mentioned in the form of Claystone, Upperman, DeKalb, Westmoreland, Macon. All of those games on Thursday, as is Livingston Academy and Cookeville. That game, as my understanding, will be played at Tennessee Tech, as the field turf is not quite finished, the new field turf at Cookeville High School. Then on Saturday, White County swings back into action as they will be hosting Cumberland County. Coach, short week of preparation. Let me get your thoughts on that as you go from a Friday to a Thursday, and some of these schools are kind of scrambling within a day or two of game time. How difficult is it on a short week to get all your game preparation in?
In a normal week, you know exactly what it is you want to do Monday. We're probably going to show the players some film if we didn't do it over the weekend. We're going to find as a coaching staff the one or two things we really need to fix offensively and defensively before we move on.
Right.
We're going to add a little bit. We're going to work on some things. We're going to prepare for that team. But then you have to figure out how you're going to do that in one less day, because you would like to keep your Thursday, now your Wednesday, your walkthrough the day before fresh and clean, because you want your fresh legs. You don't want a lot of hitting. You don't want to go through a lot of running. You want basically walkthrough. These are the plays, walk through them. Defensively, these are our fronts and our stunts. Let's kind of walk through them. So it really does put a lot of burden on the coaching staff to determine exactly what it is they want to get accomplished that week.
Coach, let's talk about some of the matchups coming up. I'm going to lead off with Clay County at Stone Memorial. As you mentioned, Stone plays pretty tough with a good Grace Christian school out of Knoxville. Clay County, a good win over Columbia Academy. Now, school size, it's 1A versus 4A, but I think this is a good measuring stick, especially for Clay County, to see, how good this club could be this year going over to Crossville to play Stone.
Absolutely, because if Clay County can come away, and I'm not saying that they have to win, but I get the feeling that Stone Memorial's a pretty decent team.
Yeah.
And if they can hang with Stone Memorial into the second half and give themselves a chance to just kind of keep it close and respectable, we're not talking about, these kind of wins.
Right.
But if they can do that, then they've really, for the first 2 weeks, shown out that they are a legitimate team.
Nolensville at Watertown. Last year, the two teams played at Nolensville, and Nolensville wins that game 32-14. Nolensville coming off a loss to a pretty good Brentwood squad, 47-12. Of course, Watertown, I don't think we saw the best of Watertown last week. And again, we mentioned this last week, the front end of that Watertown schedule is pretty loaded. I think that was an important win last week. Now can they measure up to what's developed into a good 4A school in Nolensville? Not a lot of time, like you said, playing their game earlier for either school, but it does give the problems that Coach Webster has to kind of figure out from week 1 to week 2. There's less time to fix those problems. So I think that's going to play a heavy role also. Cannon County goes to McMinnville to play Warren County. Warren County last year had over 300 penalty yards as Cannon County upset them 20-7. Warren County has a huge chip on their shoulders, so much so, Coach, in the paper this week, not one player would mention the school's name that they are playing this week. And a good Warren County team, Cannon better come with the A game. I think Warren County's out for some revenge. That has to be a game last year that Warren County just goes into and we don't have to do much because of Cannon County's history. It was Coach Daniel's second year there and not much, and we don't have to try. And they found out differently. Yes, they did. Because they got punched in the mouth on the ground game. And so I think playing at home, with that in mind, you just mentioned the newspaper. I think Warren County's pretty good, and we know the struggles that Cannon County's facing, replacing so much of their offense and percentages and everything like that. I think that's going to be a very tough ball game for Cannon County. As we wrap the segment up, DeKalb County hosting Upperman. This is not the Upperman team we've seen the last couple of years. Donovan McAllister's no longer at quarterback. They've got some rebuilding to do. DeKalb County's loaded. Do the Tigers bounce back against the Bees? The Bees still going to be fired up, and they're going to be tough as they always are, but DeKalb has the experience. You're correct on both issues. It's going to be a game that used to be a rivalry game. It no longer is, but, Coach Trapp has some work to do. Coach Cagle has some work to do. They've got to get in these kids' minds, as talented as you are, if you don't go out there and perform and you don't take care of the football and you don't take care of your blocking assignments or your fits or your form tackling, then anybody can beat you. You cannot allow yourself to get so far behind like a Warren County and expect to come back and win the ball game. You have to play a solid 4 quarters, beginning the opening kick until that final whistle. All right, going to be an interesting weekend to say the least, and a lot of games on Thursday night. So if you're enjoying a game, if you're watching our show on Thursday night, hope you got a game to enjoy on Thursday. And, of course, if it's Friday football game night coming up, Gordonsville at Smith County from Al Stadium in Carthage. For Terry Collins, we want to appreciate him for joining us today. We want to thank him big time for stopping by. For our producer-director, Mr. Nick Notes, and for the coach, Chris Vance, I'm Tom Duggin, saying so long this week for the Box Score.